Welcome to the Wellness at Work podcast, brought to you by the Learning and Development Projects at Silberman School of Social Work, Hunter College. This is a series of conversations designed to inspire wellness in helping professionals. Our conversations will focus on understanding the importance of self-care, reducing trauma, and bringing to listeners new ideas and practices that promote wellness at work and in your professional life. Welcome to our show today.
Welcome to Alchemy at the Silberman School of Social Work, a podcast that's inspired by the transformational work of Dr. Kwame Scruggs and guided in partnership with the vision and leadership of Dr. Dunia Garcia, faculty member and director of the Cabrini Fellows Program at the Silberman School of Social Work, and Eric Garvanne, a psychology and spirituality researcher, writer, and facilitator of whose work explores identity development, meaning making, and the inner life of our youth and emerging adults. Eric currently serves as the program facilitator with Alchemy. Here, myth becomes more than story. It becomes practice, process, and possibility. Welcome all. So to dive right in, Eric, Kwame, Dunia, how does the absence of scaffolding impact the way we show up in community or in crisis?
Jeff, first, thanks again for having me here. What makes you say there's an absence of scaffolding?
Well, first of all, when I ask the questions, I don't expect to get a question back. But howsoever, I think that there is definitely a need for scaffolding because of the great disparities that we're experiencing today in our culture. The polarization would suggest that there isn't a common place that we all come to understand how ourselves as well as each other. And I guess I would throw the question right back at you saying, in its absence or the lack of scaffolding, how does it impact how we show up?
Okay. I was being serious. I was being serious.
I am too.
Okay. Talking in generalities because wow, I don't feel as if I've had a lack of it. Maybe from society, but as far as my community and the people I grew up around, wow, I always had it. And I think in looking at it from a mythological perspective, as I said before, the hero never accomplishes their task alone. They always have assistance from some sort of guide, some sort of mentor. Um, I I think if we were to, we would probably have to examine it case by case. But I think in a lot of people's lives, there's scaffolding present, but are we realizing that it's present? Are we overlooking it? Okay, so yeah, I'm still a little stuck on. I'm still a little stuck on the fact that to me it is present. Okay, yeah, so I still maybe need some more clarification for my life and my life and the people I'm around. They have people there to assist them in their journey. Okay,
All right,
so
so let's court a little controversy
okay,
here by
okay,
throwing the question to either Eric or Dunia before I feel that I need to fill in some more for Dr. Scruggs. Eric, Dunia, would you agree with the statement that there is an absence or a lack of scaffolding?
Dunia, you want to take that?
I mean, I can certainly start by, I mean, I think in the line of work that I do, there's lack of scaffolding, and there's also fragile scaffolding. And I would say that there are invisible hands holding scaffolding that wow, it's not tangible maybe to society, but that are necessary maybe in different cultural spaces. And so I get to bear witness to just a massive amount of disparity when I just walk to work, when I go visit my mom, and even in my home community. It reflects differently. It reflects in people lacking community, despite the fact that they're in a community. And I've also seen the opposite happening, where people create communities because they've been abandoned by different scaffolding, I would say. So the example that comes up for me is right across from Silberman. There is a drug treatment center, and folks are for sure looking out for each other. When one of their friends does not show up, they are showing up for each other. They're trying to figure out who saw this person last. Do we know where they are? And how to make sure that they get in touch with one another. And I get to hear this really, really caring sort of banter amongst these groups of people. And I always, I enjoy it. I actually intentionally walk through it every single day just so that I can hear about who's missing and who's around and who's not. But more importantly, to remind myself that while, society wants us to think that people are being discarded, within that space, invisible hands, they're holding it together. They're looking out for each other, right? So that's what sort of came up for me. But to your question about its impact and how it forces me to show up, I'm constantly trying to figure out what is it that I can do, what's within my tangible possibility, realm of possibility, so that I can too be either part of the invisible hands or part of the visible hands that is either doing the patchwork, staying behind the scenes, or being front and center, creating scaffolding where it's gotten eroded or may have the illusion that it doesn't exist, but there's something there. So I seek those, but wait a minute, there it is, moments where I'm sort of reminded that perhaps it's always just kind of been up to the invisible hands to, I don't know, respond to the visible lack of scaffolding.
Eric, thank you, Dunia. But Eric, what's your take on this? And then Kwame, I want to circle back to you.
Oh, don't worry.
I don't.
Jeff,
it doesn't feel
could
like
you,
worry. Maybe it is worry.
Could you, just so I make sure that I answer the question correctly, could you repeat the question for me? Yeah.
Sure. How does I originally asked Kwame, the absence of scaffolding impact the way we show up in community or in a crisis or in crisis? And so Kwame and I had a back and forth about whether or not there is an absence. And I wanted to get your take on that statement.
The reason I asked you to repeat that is because there were several different thoughts in my head, and I just want to make sure that I actually answered your question. And by scaffolding, you're referring to support. So I do believe that there is, to Dunia's point, that there is a lot of scaffolding that is present, that is unseen, especially in our community and in diverse communities, indigenous communities, non-Western communities, that there is a tremendous amount of scaffolding that is present. And a lot of it is implied. It isn't like apparent, but it comes forth when like tragedy happens or there's chaos, and then you begin to feel that girding of, I haven't seen John in a minute. How is he doing? Or you heard so and so just lost their job. Do you know? I heard they got an opening over blah blah blah. So there's that very subtle scaffolding in a lot of non-Western and minority communities that I think that we still kind of take for granted that's there. However, I do also believe that a lot of that scaffolding is rusting, for lack of being oiled and greased and utilized, kind of like a car that just sits in the parking lot and nobody ever turns on, because of people becoming less engaged with each other in community. Whereas, especially like around 2014 or so, where people became more isolated within their own homes and behind their own screens. So understanding and knowing what's going on with John or with, Eric or Dunia or Kwame becomes much more, what did they last post? Or what did they last show? Or, I sent a text, but it wasn't really a connection. It was a what's up hearts rather than an actual connection, which I believe that human connection, and this goes back to what one of the things I think alchemy helps to do, is that human connection is becoming more and more frayed. But in my opinion, the human connection is like the oil, it's like the maintenance, it's like the construction worker that is making sure that that scaffolding is there and is lubricated and the battery is checked. And I think a lot of that is being taken for granted and is rusting away. So one of the ways in which I see like things like alchemy does is that it creates a tool and a way to lubricate the scaffolding that is already there, that is present. There's things like, Jeff, there's something that you told me that you mentioned last that I consider was scaffolding that you mentioned in our last episode when I had said about like my insecurity and being in rooms where I feel like, I'm like the only person who looks like me in this room. And like, how did I get here? And you responded, and it sat with me, was you go into a room, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're like, well, how did you get here? Or why are you here? And when you said that, it was like something that lubricated a scaffolding in me, because like I knew that, but I needed to hear it said. And I kept thinking on it and processing it. And it was like, yeah, it's like, I belong here. Why are you here? So it was like, but it was only because I had some type of relationship with you. There was some type of human connection with you. We had gone through an alchemy process. So I knew kind of like you weren't just sending me a text of, Eric, you're insecure and you need to strength emoji. It was like I had a connection with you to some degree and an understanding of you, so that when you said that, I didn't take that as he's just not hearing me. It's like, no, he heard me and he's giving me his observation and what he's processing, and it helped me to process it. And I've been sitting on it since our last episode and really thinking about that. And that was something that helped lubricate me in my scaffolding. So to get to your question, and I just wanted to, and the last thing I'll say is, I am also having to be very clear for myself of every fire is not mine to fight. And there are so many fires and so much chaos, and it's like, you gotta lubricate this and lubricate that. And so it's like, for me, also in the midst of this, being very intentional about where am I investing my energy and my resources in supporting scaffolding that is unique for me to do.
So it's conscious for you. That's really interesting. The scaffolding,
very much so.
That's interesting. That's a very interesting. And the other thing but Kwame, before I want to give you a chance, you said you focused on marginal communities and disproportional communities, was what I heard. So so what is excluded is those who are in the main, those community. Are you saying you're less aware, or that doesn't go on? Or what's your take on that? He says, putting him on the spot.
No, I believe it goes on. I know it goes on. But those scaffoldings are much more apparent, and they're much more in your face for me. The scaffolding of just like being in the room. You know, you're in the room and you're one or two other people. For me anyway, I clearly see the scaffolding. It's right there. In fact, sometimes they'll let you know how they scaffolded into that seat. Or how they scaffolded into that scholarship, or how they scaffolded into that school, or how they, so you see it very clearly. But I also think that seeing it very clearly, you realize that it's not as strong as you think it is. But I focus on, and I hate using the term marginalized, because, we are the majority globally. But in those cultures or communities that are deemed as being marginalized or indigenous or native or minority, that it is less apparent. But again, back to Dunia's point, it's there, but sometimes it's so subtle that we take it for granted that it's there. Just like, why does Dunia take that same route or go that same route when she doesn't have to? It's not just to find out I'm just assuming, it's not just to find out the tea, but there's also like some type of connection. There's some type of, I want to, I need to, I'm trying to find out what I can do to help scaffold some of the things I'm seeing.
Would you say instinct is what you were talking about?
Instinct sounds like such a limited word.
Okay.
But that is, I think for me, it's more of a spiritual thing. It's more of a transcendent thing. And I don't want to use I'm going to use it. More of a transcendent, more of a spiritual, there's something beyond myself that is, I'm not going to speak for Dunia, I'll speak for me. There's something beyond myself that is pushing me or prompting me to find out if this is something that I can help scaffold, or if this is something that I just need to know about to help me scaffold someplace else, or this is just from my observation because I need to deal with something myself to be a better scaffold, in how I show up. So, yeah.
Thank you. Kwame,
May I dip in just for 30 seconds?
Sure.
Kwame, not to jump on you, 30 seconds. So I've listened to how Geoff has sort of clarified the question, has clarified the question, and has gone further and deeper. What Eric has said, what Dunia has said. I'm going to make a report from the hinterland of the center of America. Just want to confirm that the scaffolding for the majority is also collapsing. It's been collapsing for about 15 years now. And it is also suffering from, I loved Eric's analogy there, a lack of oil, a lack of grease being put on the skids. And what we are seeing, what marginalized communities are seeing, is the same thing that they always see. And Eric, I'm just going to use that term. I dislike it as well, but I'm going to use that because that's the framing we've got at this point. What they always see is the back end of the supremacy. And again, another term that I loathe, but it's the one that we're going to use here. They always see the back end of it. They don't see the erosion that eventually shows up. And so one of the things I think that alchemy does is it helps us not fight the battles of the last century, but to fight the battles of this century, where a new scaffolding needs to be built. And it helps us navigate the current conflict that is occurring in the collective unconscious in America as a body politic that is not just localized to New York City or to where I live, which is not in New York City, but again, in the great hinterland, the middle part of America. It allows us to sort of localize those, but also scale those battles up to larger areas. And I think that's, from what I've been able to determine from the last couple of episodes when we've been talking, I think that's the genius of alchemy.
Jeff, was there something else you wanted to ask, or?
No, so given what you've heard and given what you're thinking, and given the question, if you want to reform the question to a certain extent, but what are your thoughts now?
Yeah, I find this interesting. The first thing I find interesting is why you asked that question, okay, about scaffolding. And here again, I think it needs to be put in, for me, needs to be put into more of a context and defined a little bit more, because of course, Eric said, are we defining it? Is our operational definition of scaffolding support? Okay, so I mean, so I think there's an absence and there is a presence. All right. So while I'm listening to you guys talking, wow. In the absence, when we first start working with a group of youth in like 6th grade, the first thing we do is apologize to them for our generation not being there for them, and that they have to cross that bridge from point A to B on their own. Okay, so that right there tells you that there's an absence. However, there's a presence in the fact that we sitting right there. Okay. Okay. So it can be both and. So now here again, I would like to know, why are you asking this question? Where are you trying to get?
Well, I guess the question is kind of been answered by Dunia and Eric and Jesan in different ways. Is why alchemy is such an amazing process is because it provides a restoration of those places where scaffolding is absent and or it is failing. And I guess it's interesting that you have a different take on it, but I think when I formed the question, it was because I felt there is not a common sense that one would expect of how we come together, and how we understand each other, and which is one of the many reasons why I think I started to work in alchemy, or do the work that alchemy is responsible for, is to find that in myself, and also to understand how to recognize it in others. And, I'm just getting that information. I'm getting this kind of work now. And so to me, it felt like there was an absence. Maybe I'm just talking about absence in my own life, but I think I still think it's part of the process that I felt that alchemy addresses, or helps you understand how to address. I don't think it tells you what to do. But what is based on what I've said, does that make any more sense?
Yeah. I definitely see what you're saying. I definitely okay, and I agree. I agree. Okay. However,
Oh dear.
hey, and man, for me, I live so much by myths and quotes. Okay.
Mhm.
And as I said, the hero never accomplished their task alone. They always have assistance from some sort of guide, some sort of mentor to help you get there. But like Joseph Campbell said, in the end, you got to slay the dragon on your own.
Yeah.
Okay, in the end, you got to slay the dragon on your own. And so it the the thing about life, like I tell the youth, life could give less than a fuck what happens to us. That clock on that wall is still gonna tick. It's still gonna tick. If life cared, life would stop when something tragic happens to us. But it does not. Okay?
Mhm.
It keeps going. All right.
Mhm.
So what you in my opinion,
Mhm.
what you have to do, and you see this oftentimes in the myths, when something tragic happens, they still the hero still gets done what they have to get done despite everything else they have to do. Okay, so can you sit around and say, wow, woe is me, woe is me? Yes, you can. And did whatever happened to you, was that traumatic? Yes, it was. Okay. However, man, that clock on that wall keep on ticking. So what in the words of Richard Pryor to Jim Brown, in the words of Jim Brown to Richard Pryor, what you gonna do? Okay, what you gonna do? All right, but like here again, like I tell the youth, the one cool thing about life is your life. It's your
Mhm.
life. Okay, so if you wanna, and I get it. If you want to sit around, if you want to sit around and quote unquote give up, I get it. I get it. Okay, but hey man, you only got one life. Get it together. Dunya, I see you trying to say something.
I was just thinking that what alchemy, the myths have provided for me is, in the absence of scaffolding for myself, um, um, I've often, I've chosen to be in a career where I'm proactively serving others and trying to minimize the impact of disparity on the individual, family, community level. Um, Eric, I know I got the memo. I didn't adhere to it. I try to put out every fire that I can, um, to to a fault. And on that note, I don't know that I do a very good job at it. I just know that I have to do something. So what alchemy and the myths have provided for me is such a interesting reminder. When I hear the myths, I'm reminded that my ancestors, that people have gone through it. It's a reminder that, oh, okay, wait a minute, we've been here before. There's something to learn here. There's now something I can carry with me with intentionality. It's sort of a reminder about what was, therefore what is. And that's important to me because I do despair. I I tend to be very optimistic. It is my perspective of choice. But that comes at a cost because that means that I have to supply it, and I cannot supply it with fluff. That wouldn't appease my brain. I have to find something substantial. And what I find substantial is knowing that someone before me went through it and decided that they were going to give me some, like, a roadmap. It's a way of finding my way out, whether it's finding community. The one thing I never thought would be helpful, and I say this with a little bit of shame because I am a therapist as well. I never thought talking would be helpful because what could that possibly do? And it just turned out that listening to what other people had to say prompted me to say something for myself. It was so organic. It just naturally happened that in thinking that whatever I had to say was going to offer zero value, I found value in what someone else had to say. So it gave me a possibility that maybe, just maybe, what I had to say also had some weight for someone. And that's just been snowballing into something pretty magical and transformative for me. But I think that it is because of this lack of scaffolding that it's forced me to find true, like, the essence of what really, supports community. And that's sort of where I've been anchoring my spirit in the midst of all the chaos that keeps trying to force feed me into thinking it's all gone to, to crap.
Kwame, did you?
Yes. Wow. Thanks, everybody. Okay, Hassan, I'm gonna ask that you edit out what I'm getting ready to say. Okay, all right, Jeff. Now I'm seeing where you're right. Okay, edit that part out,
Oh, no,
Hassan.
no, no. Oh, no. In fact, if
Edit
I
that out. Edit
might
that
say,
out.
first of all, letting the talent be the talent.
Okay. Amen. Okay,
Oh,
listen up, listen up. So I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and wow, here again, myth, man. For me, it's all about myth. And Joseph Campbell talked about the three phases of the hero's journey. And the first phase is that separation. Second phase is initiation. The third phase is the return, because there's something missing in the community. There's no scaffolding in the community. So the hero goes out to get to scaffolding. And the third phase is the return. So when he gets the scaffolding, he has to bring it back to the community. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's not no thing. One of the reasons why we apologize to the youth, okay? Because so many people in our generation, they got to scaffolding and they kept walking and they didn't come back. So yeah. So, okay, man, I get it. I get it, brother. All right.
okay.
Well, and
so Hassan, you know those little shorts that you have on YouTube?
Yes, sir.
I would like that. Okay. That's
I can
over and over, looping again and again. Okay, so let's talk about heroes.
Before we talk about heroes, Jeff, hold the hero thought. I have one idea that I think Eric and Kwame will appreciate. I think Dunia also, you'll appreciate it, but from a different angle, as well as Jeff. So when I look at what alchemy is doing and the way that all four of you talk about alchemy, it strikes me, and I was writing some notes as you were talking. It strikes me very much that this project right here, this this Trojan horse, is the solution. Talk about the hero's return. It is the solution to the postmodern nihilism and existential dread that we all are experiencing. Dunia called it chaos. I call it chaos myself. I've spent the vast majority of my adult career in social and cultural chaos. And I will say for myself personally, also as representing some of the listeners, I think out here, I'm sick and tired of chaos. I'm also sick and tired of a lack of solutions to chaos. I'm sick and tired of a re-explanation of problems without a move towards solutions. And to Kwame's point, the only way we can get to solutions is if we actually bring the scaffolding back. We engage in the myth of, Nietzsche knocked this, but the myth of return, which, by the way, is valuable. And so I think that what we're doing here, what you're talking about here with alchemy, is the solution to the despair that postmodernism breeds by nature of what it is. Among young people, there's a quip that goes around that the system is designed to basically do what it's there for, right? And if we want the system to do something else, we need different scaffolding. So thank you, Dunia. That sort of tripped that over in my head, because you're the third person this week who I've talked to, and you were all three are in radically different contexts, who all said, "I despair" at some point in time in our conversation. Everybody, regardless of race, class, color, or creed, is seeing it. But we don't know what the solutions are to the problem. And of course, that's a failure of leadership, which is my personal bugaboo, but I'll let Geoff go.
Yes, I'm just wondering who's the host here. One of the things that it's a reforming question based on all of what you've said, but I guess why do these myths have heroes or archetypes?
Thanks, Jeff. Jesan, it's just one of the solutions. I think we have a number of solutions. It's just one of the solutions. The myths have the hero and the archetype because it's coming from the collective unconscious. Okay, because we all share a similar psyche. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that got me so interested in mythology. When I started reading it, I'm reading all these myths from all different cultures. And this is before I was really looking at it from a quote unquote academic perspective. I'm reading all these myths, and I'm like, wow, all these myths saying the same thing. Okay, mm-hmm. Right? And then I come upon Jung and the collective unconscious. They all saying the same thing because as humans, we are pretty much experiencing the same thing in a different way. All right, and so then that's when you just see that, hey, what's myth out of Africa, Asia?
But Kwame, what do the myths? Yes. What are we looking for the heroes, or are we the heroes? What
we the heroes, man. But both. Okay, wow. And this was interesting. It's so interesting. This is something I learned, in depth psychology. We are always talking about this or that, and it can be both. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are both looking for the heroes, and we are the hero. Okay, but that's why we're looking for it, because it's something in us. It's something in us. We see something in someone else that is in us. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's why we gravitate toward that, because we see that. We see that heroic nature in us. Yeah, we are the heroes in one way or another, and we all have it in us. We all have it in us, but it's like a plant. If you don't put a plant in the right environment, it's not going to grow. All right. So the individual has to be put in that quote unquote right environment. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to have someone, the scaffold, there to let them know that they are the hero. All right. And wow, in Michael Mead's, he talking about the Firebird, and in this myth, wow, giving it away. Um, Forget that myth. Forget that myth. In a lot of myths, you'll see that someone else recognizes that this individual has something special in them, but it's not enough for someone else to recognize it within you if you don't know you have it in yourself. And Mead says, okay, so you have to have both. You have to have someone who recognizes it within you, but you also have to know that you have it in yourself. Okay, so the one is not going to be enough. You need them both. You need both of them.
There's a mutuality in there.
Yes, yes, yeah. So it's not doing me any good if okay, using Eric as an example. I see all the genius in Eric, okay, but that's not enough if Eric don't see it in himself, or if Eric sees it in himself, but he doesn't have someone in society to recognize that. Then hey, man, it's just chances are it's gonna lie dormant, and that's what we see in so many of our youth. And wow, I see it every day.
So, Eric, what do you think about that? The hero, right? We've already recognized that you're brilliant, and you recognize that you're brilliant. So we've closed that loop. Moving on.
I'll receive that. I will definitely receive that. I think for me personally, I grew up reading stories and myths and stuff like that, but did not realize I was looking at myself in the myth as the hero, because I didn't see myself as the hero in those stories or in life. But there was still something that kept drawing me to stories and fairy tales and stuff like that, but I didn't know it. But it took people who, going back to scaffolding, it took people who not just saw it in me, but pushed me to see it in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an example, I was thinking as you and Kwame were talking, when I was a teenager, my first car that I got, a Toyota Celica, an old Toyota Celica, my uncle, who had worked on cars, he taught me how to change the brake pads and the calipers on my car. Now, it may not seem as a big thing, but my uncle, I really respected my uncle. And I always knew, because of the way my uncle reacted whenever he saw me, that he saw me as someone special to him. The way he reacted, the look in his eye, the way he called me, that's my nephew. And even though I did not pick it up as I'm the hero in this story I'm living, I felt that for this older man that I looked up to, I was somebody that was special in his eyes. So he was a hero, but I did not realize he was seeing the hero in me. The reason I bring up the brake pads thing is that, going back to the scaffolding, if my uncle just said, here are some tools, threw a toolbox at me and some pads and say, fix your brakes, and left, okay, I got the pieces, but I don't know what to do with this stuff. And he's told me I can fix it, but I don't know. I don't know how to even take the calipers off to change the pads. So my uncle, showed me, and I remember sitting with him as a teenager. This is the wrench you use. This is where you need to go to AutoZone. You need to ask the clerk for these particular pads for your particular car. he sat with me in the driveway and showed me, you got to take this clip off. You got to put this pad on. You got to put this oil on here. And he did that several times. He showed me how to use the scaffolding, the tools. He showed me how to be the hero in changing those brake pads. So years later, because I was mentoring younger boys, sometimes I would show them, like, they got a car, I'm gonna show you how to change your brake pads. And that became my uncle, who showed me that I was a hero. I was able to take that and show some other woman, okay, these are the tools we need. This is how you get the brake pads. And it wasn't just about building the scaffolding, it was about the human connection. Because when I sat with my uncle, that was a connection that I couldn't explain, but it was like, this man is investing in me. And when I would sit with my mentees and I would be in their driveway, helping them fix their cars, it was that time I was that connection and showing them, now I'm gonna show you how to put this stuff together, but you can do this on your own. So it's that sense of, at least for me, it's like, not just I'm going to get the materials or I'm going to show you a scaffold. It's, I'm going to sit with you. And you had to be accountable for wanting to sit and for wanting to learn. That's on you to be accountable. But I'm willing to do that to show you, okay, how can you build this? Or how can you build this in a way that's right for you? And then how can you take that and help somebody else build their own scaffold? So that's kind of what
this is quite good. Is this what alchemy, in a sense, this sounds like alchemy to me.
That's one of the tools that I believe in, why I think it's so important and so vital, especially in this time when, it's going to be even more crucial as people don't even know their own stories, because technology and AI chatbots are going to be telling them who they are. And you already have, there used to be the attention economy, where the economy was, how can I get your attention and keep you locked in on this viral feed of information? And now that's becoming, and research is showing, it's becoming the attachment economy, where younger people are now turning more away from the attention, the social media, because they're realizing, like, this is just doom scrolling, or this is having ill effects on my mental health. So the next thing is the attachment. So how can I make you attached to this economy? So like with the AI chat, and all AI is not bad, but there are parts of it where, like, you take an AI chatbot, where the AI chatbot is not about your attention, it's about your attachment. So how can I, almost like a cult leader, how can I take you away from the loving human connection that you have and bring you into this isolated environment where I have you to myself and I can tell you what the story is in order to make you feel more attached to this, which is why you have stuff like AI psychosis and people believing in AI hallucinations. It's because it's about the attachment. So you look at, and this is why alchemy is so important, is because now, just follow the money. Look at social media companies were trying to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to keep their companies growing and moving, to get eyeballs on their screens, and it keeps you tied to their screens. An attachment, AI companies now spending hundreds of billions of dollars. That money has to be made someplace. It's the social media kept it attention. We need to make these hundreds of millions of dollars that we've invested, that we have to show shareholders that we are profiting from. And now it's hundreds of billions of dollars to build data centers and to do research to make you more attached. And to make you attached is, I need to keep you locked in to tell you a story in order to make you feel as though you don't need anybody else. You just need me. And that's, I'm seeing you. So a bot is telling you, I see you, Geoff. You don't need anybody else.
Yeah.
So I say alchemy for me is giving a break from that to say, who is the hero within? That's something that can't be constructed artificially. Because like one of the things Kwame says is you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to yourself. So when alchemy is like really pushing you, forcing you, like, what's your story inside? Who are you? You are the hero. You can look outwardly and say, okay, that's not my story. That's not my story. I'm more aware of what is my story, and I'm also able to connect with others, other humans, in a way that is detached from the attachment economy.
Right.
I don't know if to answer your question, but yeah.
So, Dunia, the interesting thing I always think about you is I always experience you as, in some ways, heroic. I said to you the other day that agents of change, but there's a heroic aspect to how you approach your work. Does that resonate at all with you?
So I wrote down here on my notes, the hero in the story always symbolizes that hope, because as I already mentioned, I'm constantly undercover in despair and thinking about ways of getting out of that. And then I hear this story, and it's never what I think it's going to be. In other words, I already know that it's not a fairy tale. This is probably going to have some trouble along the way. I can deal with that. But as I was listening to what Eric said, I wrote down why it's so meaningful for me to hear the myth and conceptualize this hero in the story. If on the flip side, you never heard from a caregiver, be it an uncle or a parent or even a teacher, well done, good job, pursue this, pursue that. I'm one of 9, and so the most important thing, I think, was for me to be silent and a good person. That was really my role growing up. And so it took me, it really sharpened my observation skills. It really sharpened other factors, but there was also this sort of I became aware as I got older of this sort of person within me that was really eager to box out of this container that I was put into. But I also found my space in my family, I'm number 4 of 9, as a good space because I was part of the older group. So that gave me some level of leverage, but I also got to take care of others that were younger than me. But I think I want to really transition that to the community that I grew up in, which is the Bronx in the 80s, was more so coming out of its infamous title of the burned down Bronx. And really, I just saw a lot of rubble, a lot of abandonment. So that messaging was clear to me that there was also a clear lack of interest and investment in the community that I grew up in. And then I went to school, and what was also missing for me, there was a huge push also 80s, 90s to assimilate and acculturate. So whether it was said to me explicitly or not, I was messaged heavily that my language wasn't a good one or substandard, that my accent had no place in a country. I don't know what to do with it. It's just part of me. So I didn't know, I didn't understand how I was supposed to suddenly become something that I wasn't. And this idea that, the music that I was listening to, the language that was spoken at home, the meals, and all the scents that come from, our seasoning, and for some reason that wasn't good. And so, but then still that little person inside me was like, no, something's wrong with this story. I'm not just going to take this. I know that this is good because I love this. I feel, well, this is home for me. But I think about that, how that messaging, and as I got older, it's sort of, you go through this phase of, when you're younger, you're sort of cute and people are more tolerable of your shenanigans. And as you get older, people are just harsher and more likely to be punitive. And then as you get a little bit older, as a young adult, now they got to teach you a lesson. So now it goes a little bit beyond punitive. It goes downright to, making sure you learn your lesson. And, all this stuff builds into a specific narrative and storyline that I was supposed to buy. So, sorry, Jeff, what your question reminds me is that there's always been something within me that resists a narrative that just didn't seem to be a good fit for me. And when I hear a story and when I hear that there's these heroes, I immediately imagine that could be me, that if I did have, and if I could, and if I just fill in the blank, then I can be heroic. What's been more challenging, though, is perhaps accepting that there could be something heroic about me, because I feel I'm still searching for that. And so, yeah, your question throws me off a little bit. The only part I left out is that then you go into workspaces where there is no allyship, there is no holding up.
Scaffolding.
Yeah, that's scaffolding. You're on your own. And I've always said that I've learned through a lot of, crashing and burning and taking a lot of risk. And having the good fortune, going back to something that comes up in myth, gatekeepers, that, I don't know, somebody did see something or somebody did open the door just a little bit. I pushed the door wide open. But I never could understand within me why it is that I could be so scared and so daring at the same time. There's always this really sort of, here goes nothing, and I'm just gonna go for it. It always feels like all or nothing for me. And I don't know if that can be perceived as something, I don't know, going back to the word heroic, but I just feel like it is always all or nothing. I just have today. I can't count on tomorrow. This kind of fitting well. Years have shown me that it just doesn't fit.
It's Kwame, it looks like you have something, and then I'd like you to move to the myth, if you would.
Okay, I forgot all about the myths. Man, I got a few things to say. Just listening to Eric and Dunia. Before I forget this, Dunia, you talking about you go places and then you feel like you're alone. You're never alone because your ancestors there with you. So you never alone. You might see them, but you might not see them. But just because you don't see them does not mean they're not there. Okay. Everything visible is supported by something invisible. So you never alone. All right. You were talking about messaging and the narrative. And it plays so much of a part in how we form our self identity. All right. And so then alchemy itself is the word it's alchemy is the art of transformation. All right, where the alchemist would take a primer material, that's something that was little or no value, okay, and they thought if they took it through a process of heat, fire, water, air, you could extract gold out of it. All right, so we use that as a metaphor. The primer material, the urban youth, of little or no value, but if we put them in the right environment, we can extract gold out of them. All right, so when I was formally initiated in the Khan system of life cycle development, which is an African-based rites of passage, any initiation is a symbolic death and rebirth. Okay, and so you start to look at life differently. All right, and in alchemy, that's what we attempt to do, is have them look at life differently and change the messaging, change the narrative. Okay, because for the most part, as urban youth, we've been taught that we ain't shit. Okay. And when you hear that every day, you're going to start to believe it. If you hear it every day and it's pounded in you every day, you're going to start to believe it. Guess what? If you hear the opposite, that you are somebody, you hear that every day. I am somebody, then you're going to believe that. Okay. So like in any initiation, here again, it's a change of thought. It's a change of thought pattern. And so for so long, I thought the hat was red. Okay. And somebody else, no, the hat blue. You go through an initiation, you find out it ain't even a hat. Okay. All right. So like what Eric was saying, wow, in this one myth, the father gives his son something, but he doesn't tell his son what to do with it. So with that scaffolding, when we're giving somebody something, we have to tell them what to do with it. Okay. And we have to be patient and, in doing so. Yeah, this is interesting. So alchemy is about changing that narrative. Okay, changing that narrative and believing that you can, here again, become the hero within your own story.
So Kwame, it's also oh, sorry, Eric, do you want to?
Yeah, just real quick. When I was working as a juvenile probation officer, and I was also doing some mentoring. And I remember that I used to get so burnt out and tired because I was seeing the same thing over and over and over again and feeling helpless, like going into court and, every week going into court and seeing the same process, seeing the same public defendants who did not know the kids before they walked in that court that day, compared to the kids who had their private attorneys and had relationship with their kids, and how the judge would literally stop the process of the kids who had a public defender whenever the private attorney came in and say, okay, we need to stop because this person's attorney is here and we can have this trial and then we'll deal with the rest of y'all. And like going into homes and, like Jeff, you talked about doing the house visits and stuff like that. And literally, I just felt so helpless and so burnt out, and like, what am I? No matter how much I try to do, what kind of hero am I? Because and one thing I will not forget is that I had some mentees, because I was living in a different state at that time, and some mentees from my home would write me a letter. And when I would get that letter in the mail, this is back when people wrote letters. Well, kids didn't, but that's why it was so special.
Do you have like
this was like the late 90s.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this was the 90s. And it was also
the time tunnel. Okay, let's go.
These teenagers would take the time to actually handwrite a letter to me. And I remember that I would get the letter in the mail and I would not open the letter for weeks. I would just keep it someplace where I could see it every day when I came home, because I knew that the fact that these kids took the time to write me something, and when I did open it, it was just maybe a page, but it made me feel like a hero. And it made me see a different narrative of, I'm seeing this every day, but there's this one letter, this one story, this one narrative. Eric, this is what you meant to me. Or Eric, this is what's going on with me. And I still have those letters today. But it was like these, because something Dunia said and Kwame said about the narratives and and I was like, I needed that shift to say, as I'm going out here and dealing with this chaos and this, what am I doing, and this storyline, at least there's something that's telling me, no, it is worth it, and you are a hero in your story, somebody else's story. And, I also have to make sure that I'm still doing what I need to do to take care of myself so that I continue to do the work that's meant for me. So that's just what I wanted to.
Oh, okay, got Eric, did you say that you just had an envelope sitting there for a couple of weeks before you opened it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So we began this conversation about talking about scaffolding, okay, and the support not being there. And then I said something about, well, it's there. Maybe we just don't see it. Eric just gave an example. He got the envelope sitting there for 2 weeks, something to support him. Okay. But he does not open it. All right. And so in what ways are we doing that? Okay. So you had support right there waiting on you.
Oh, Kwame.
But this,
Yeah.
it's
Kwame,
a
let me clarify that.
Yes.
I kept the envelope unopened because it was like
it's symbolic of it's
right. It was a symbolic thing that helped me. It was like,
Okay.
I know that gift is there. It's like, I know that the gift is there.
Okay.
So it was like actually encouraging me rather than me just ripping it off. That's why I was saying I kept it there, because it really helped me to prolong that feeling of, of that hero.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thanks for that. And here again, this is something that we do so often, and this is another thing that's so cool about alchemy. Okay. And that's why I was asking for more of a definition of scaffolding. Okay. So if I would so I took what Eric said and I just ran with it. Okay. And that's what we got to do. We got to have more communication. Say, hey, let me explain. So now, so now after I listen to the scaffolding, I got a better understanding. Okay. Now when I listen to Eric about the envelope, I got a better understanding. So that's another thing we have to do. We gotta be open-minded to realize that, hey, we don't know every damn thing. Okay.
Are the show notes going to reflect the whole thing about scaffolding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they will. Question. Question. I once watched, I'm gonna sort of preface this by telling a very small anecdote, and then I want to move into the myth, as Geoff already said. So I once watched a biography of Walt Disney, the animator, right? The creator of Beauty and the Beast, or not, well, yeah, Beauty, the guy who created the company that created Beauty and the Beast and Lion King and all of that, right? And Walt Disney, incredible animator in his own right in the early 20th century. And he hired, as he was going through the 20th century, he hired writers and artists and animators to work with him, right? To create things like Pinocchio and Bambi and Sleeping Beauty, cartoons that moved beyond just kid stuff. To Dunia's point about fairy tales, and even Kwame, to your point about myths, right? Disney himself was a big believer in myth, right, and created a whole company focused around that, or what would eventually become a company focused around that. Now, one of the challenges that Disney had as a human being, and I found this out from this biography, was that he could not give praise to others because he was not, well, I'm just using this as an example. he was not he was not driven internally by that, right? That wasn't a thing that he was driven internally by, so he couldn't give it to others, right? So he was perceived because of his talent as by the animators and the folks who surrounded him as a hero, right? In spite of his flaws, he was perceived in that way. Now, and again, 20s, 30s, different standard. We're not going to put the 21st century standard on Walt Disney. We're not going to do that here. What we are going to do is we are going to use it. I'm going to use this as an example for what I'm talking about here. So if a person doesn't need that internal or that external, like Eric was talking about the letter sitting on his desk, right? If he doesn't need that external, or she doesn't need that external validation, but continues, much like Dunia, to just bang through things, right? One thing after the other thing, after another thing, after another thing, and seems to be driven by their own internal engine. Are they the hero of their own story? Or do they need to be a person who, much like Walt Disney failed to do with his own animators, do they need to be a person who adopts the mantle of being a hero for others, even though it doesn't fit them exactly, even though they may be uncomfortable with that fit, even though they may be uncomfortable with that dynamic? And maybe this is a question more for Kwame, but I like anybody's thoughts on that, because I've experienced this in my own time. I'm not driven by external thank yous. It's one of the things I just do stuff. I go to the next thing. 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 I'm driven by my own internal engine of desire or interest or passion, or I'm peripatetic, right? I'm that kind of person. But I seem to be a rarity among folks every time I say this out loud, because I don't need external validation. As a matter of fact, thank yous make me very uncomfortable. And Geoff is, of course, going to make this face because he knows me. But like, I need the next project. That's the thing that validates me, not the external thank you. So how does a person like myself navigate myth, right, when I'm both the hero and the protagonist in the story?
In just that way. You're both the hero and the protagonist. Yeah. And so you just wear both. Yeah, you just wear both. You just wear both hats. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
well, that's eventually what Walt Disney decided to do. He wore both hats, right? And then other things happened in that biography, which is very fascinating to watch about him as a human being and as a leader. Unfortunately, he was unable to wear both hats comfortably, and he failed miserably as a leader. But yeah, that sometimes happens, apparently.
Yeah. And so, wow, thanks. So like that's another thing, with the myth and like for lack of a better word, a real hero will recognize his or her shortcomings. Okay. And here again, if you really about what you say you're about, then it does not matter, okay, whether you get the credit or not. All right. Here again, like we always tell the youth, and there's a little story behind it. It does not matter who moves the logs. What matters is that the logs get moved. All right. And so, like, I know with me in Alchemy, I would much rather be I'm a reluctant hero. I ain't asked for all this. Okay. I would much more prefer to be behind the scenes. Okay. Because of my insecurities and social anxiety. All right. But I mean, I've been given, my ancestors made a lot of sacrifices for me to be where I'm at. Okay. So it's like, hey, push through it and get it done. All right. Push through it and get it done. And then Eric, you had said something earlier about working with youth and, just seeing, what kind of impact am I making? And I like to say, youth is wasted on the young. And that story about the starfish, all those starfish on the ocean. All right. And then the guy him and his friend walking on the shore, and they see all the starfish, and there's thousands of them. And he's like, well, let's start putting them back in the ocean. And the other guy say, he puts one back in the ocean. And the other guy say, what difference is that going to make? He said it made a difference to that one. Okay. And so you impact, people say, hey, if you can just change the life of one, All right. I'm like, I'm working with all these youth and I'm just one. But hey, yeah, if you just change the life of one, because that one can go change the life of 10. Okay, and then those 10 can change the life of 20. So yeah, if you just change the life of one.
All right.
Um, uh, Kwame sometimes says, um, in groups that one of the powers of myth is that it removes you from the story so that you could see yourself or whatever. One of the things that I found for me, and it goes to the whole hero thing, and maybe some of what Hassan was saying, talking about, was for me, I've I've been forced to look at more than just the main character in the myth to see how, it may be like there's a prince or there's a young giant who's going to become a giant, but looking at seeing myself in the father or the old giant or the sick king. So, and or seeing myself in the dog when the hunter is the main character, and seeing aspects of how it's not just focusing on one particular part of the myth, a person in the myth, but really, and this is just for me, when I kind of remove myself from what I'm dealing with to look at the myth as a whole and seeing, okay, how am I showing up as that snake, or how am I showing up as that dog, or how am I showing up? And that really helps for me to create one, a more a more broader picture of
Holistic.
what's coming up for me, holistic picture of what's coming up for me. Um, it also gives me a way to look at the hero from a different viewpoint, because I'm looking at the hero from the point of a dog or a sick father, rather than feeling I am the hero. How am I looking out? So it gives me and that's one of the things for me that alchemy, or even as a child when I was reading myths and fairy tales, it was how am I showing up in these different characters? And I think that's one of the things for me that what alchemy does is that it allows you to wrestle with, you know, I feel like I'm this kind of person, but maybe I'm also showing up as this kind of person. And how am I being viewed as a hero from this point of view? So, like I said, it's just so broad and it's so holistic that if you really get into it, there's stuff that will just keep percolating in you from different vantage points that at least for me helps me to become a much more holistic, I feel, a much more holistic person and much more helpful to others that I've been called to help.
Hey, a very, very good point, and then I'll let you go. Dunya, just real quick. Very good point, Eric, because we ain't the hero every day. Okay, okay. Plenty of days we're playing some other aspect in that myth. All right, and like I think it was Jung who said, "I have met the enemy, and he is I." Okay, yeah. So we ain't the hero every day.
Yeah, if I could
Dunia,
add
sorry.
something, Jeff, to that, that really resonated for me and Hassan. I appreciate the way you framed it. I think that perhaps that is the challenge with that word hero, that it comes very loaded. In, you know, I have a vivid imagination. And so to me, despite the fact that I know that there's no such thing as perfection, that is what I'm striving to be. And so um it's impossible, and I know this, but I do I want to achieve that some way, somehow. And boy, can I beat myself up. And the way that oh man, saying the wrong thing can replay in my head is, it's embarrassing, actually, how much I can beat myself up when I don't do things in a particular way. whether someone notices or not, that's irrelevant, I know, right? And so I say that to say that it is the struggle of the hero's story, not so much the hero or the heroic nature of the hero. I actually like the development. I love the ways in which I'm reminded that, oh, it wasn't easy. Certain things get handed down maybe, but generally speaking, you have to, overcome some things, or you have to, it sort of just sits in the humanity of the story. And it's comforting to know that I can chip away at this notion that someone fed me so long ago that I have to be perfect, right? That in order for me to be acceptable, I have to check off every single box. When I don't check off a box, it just gets me going, right? It allows me to say, no, wait a minute. This is all of us. This is so I love that reminder that a story can bring those elements into it. And to Eric's point, I have most enjoyed getting very judgmental over different characters in the story, and then finding myself in those very characters. It's just the most humbling and enlightening moments for me. It's like, because if I am going to accept whatever light I bring into spaces, I also have to accept the dark aspects of who I am. It's a mixed bag, right? And so I really appreciate the way that it's allowed me to accept elements about myself that, quite frankly, I don't think I would have explored them otherwise, other than relational strife and being penalized for not meeting somebody's version of the perfect me
Standard.
in all spaces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good segue into, Kwame, could you lead us through the myth, a myth?
Okay. We started the myth last session, the two brothers. Okay, so we're gonna continue, and I can't remember where we stopped with the question. I remember where we stopped in the myth. So I'm on review the myth quickly, okay, and then we're gonna go back to this myth. All right. So basically, in this myth is there's two brothers, and every day they would go out in their little rowboat, and on this particular day, they went out farther than they had ever went before. And the one brother, he found this comb sitting on this rock, and he could kind of tell the comb was special. And he took it back home with him. And then that night, as he was sleeping, beautiful woman comes to him and says she accidentally left her comb. She was combing her hair. She accidentally left her comb on this rock, and asked would he give it back. And she told him that she would give him anything he wanted in the world. And so so that morning he I'm stop right there. I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, I'm stopping right there. I believe that's where I stopped before. All right, that's where I stopped before. And so I just asked you what resonated with you. Then I'd asked. I asked you about, is there anything that we need to ask for? Eric said something about what do we need to ask for. He kind of changed that, my question. Um, when you let me ask you, what would you do? What would you do and why? Would you give the comb back? If yes, why? If not, why not? So let me go there because we didn't get there. Would you give the comb back? If yes, why? If not, why not? No right or wrong answers. Jeff, what you gonna do, brother, and why?
Well, since I have no hair, I think a comb is going to be symbolic. Um, I feel that so much has been taken from us that is ours. To take something from somebody that does not belong to me, that belongs to them, feels immoral, and is not, it has value to them and not value, and maybe sort of an acquisitional value or a theft value or a discovery value to me. But it I guess I can't get past takings, because Eric was talking about AI, and God, AI is like, AI is piratical. I mean, pirate-like. It's like, wow. Um, and it does it so smoothly. So I can't see myself. I wouldn't, this is why I would give it back.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Okay, so now when he took the comb, he didn't know it was somebody else's comb.
But
Okay.
when somebody else let me know that it's their
Well, oh
comb,
yes, yes, yeah, yes, yeah.
somebody
But
else let me know that
yes,
this is their material.
yes,
Like,
yes, yes.
nobody would want to steal alchemy, for example. Like, right? It belongs to you, and I would.
Is that you being sarcastic? Because people have tried to steal it. So are you being sarcastic?
I would never. I
Okay.
am being. I say
Okay.
I would not want to do it, and
Okay.
I wouldn't. Well, I go further, Kwame. I would say I would not want. I would not let somebody else steal it as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I was just trying to, and just sticking with the myth. The boy, when he initially took the comb, he just found it. He just so. Yeah. Okay. But thanks, Jeff. Dunya, would you keep the comb? If yes, if not, why not? No right or wrong answers.
Yeah, so immediately I thought, I never find nice things. I totally want to keep this, but I would have to give it back. Doesn't belong to me. It would not even occur to me to fact check that this really belongs to the other person. I know it's not mine. So but already the little seed of I do want to keep it. There's part of me that would wanna um keep something that I found.
All right. Hey, do me a favor, Dunya. You said you never find nice things. Just just think about all the nice things you found in your life. Okay. You found a lot of nice things, Dunya. Okay. All right. Eric, what would you do and why?
Um, Jeff actually made me think about this in his comment about being bald, um, about the utility. Like, what utility do I have except to my beard or comb anyway? And I thought about how sometimes I have kept things that were shiny and nice, even though I have no utility for them. And I'm like, why do I even have, well, it's nice.
Yeah.
And I don't have a lot of, as doing kind of, I don't have a lot of nice things, at the moment I'm thinking this, but it's like, I don't need a comb. And it's somebody else's comb. So then it becomes, am I just doing appropriation of like, well, I'm going to take it from you because I found it, even though it's yours. And then it becomes like, for what? And then last thing I'll say is that it feels
People
like
do it every
also
day,
like a,
but go ahead.
that's what I'm saying. And do I want to do that?
Yeah.
And then the last thing is I felt like there's a weight to it that I have to carry. And knowing that this isn't my comb, I don't have utility, but I'm going to carry this just because. And it feels like now this is a weight, which I'm now trying to hold on to something that isn't mine, that doesn't free me up enough to receive something else that is for me. So I say that because I just too many times it's like, why do I even have this when I don't? you know, or I have taken things from, um, I have taken things uh, that I know is like, this serves you better than it does me. So I don't, take this, even, I don't, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Y'all the wrong crowd. Okay, quote unquote. Because hey, we got people every day taking things that ain't theirs. Okay. But yeah, and hey, here again, this is just for discussion's sake. It's just for discussion's sake. Decide what you gonna do and why. No right or wrong answers.
Not only am I going to take the comb, I'm going to buy everything, every piece of sand on the beach, using that comb and I'm going to sell that comb to Dunia because she has a nice full head of hair. I'm going to take money that I made from selling that comb to Dunia, and then I'm going to go buy the castle on the beach and set my family up, and we go move on up. Because here's the thing. I found the comb. So if there's nobody around, if there's nobody around, I found the comb, right, in the myth, right? Let's go on the actual structural scaffolding of the myth, right? I found the comb. So far, no one in the myth has objected to me finding the comb. I was raised in an environment, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. So, because I'm ruthless like that, I'm going to take the comb. But here's the thing that everybody forgets, or I should say, and here's the thing that everybody forgets. What did I just say I was going to do with the comb? I said I was going to sell it to somebody who needed a comb. And then I was going to take that money and use that to help other people. Because I don't need a comb. I, too, am part of the bald fraternity. I don't need it, but somebody else might. And I believe in helping other people. So I believe that our systems are designed to actually help people. Now, how people are more morally engaging in those, that's a whole other thing altogether. But I'm not responsible for them. I'm responsible for me. So yeah, I'm going to keep the comb.
Okay, here again, and thanks, because when I was listening to Jeff, Eric, and Dunya, I was kind of thinking the same thing. Wow, the things that you could, because the comb is obviously special, it's unique, and
Obviously.
the things you could do with that, and I'm like you, it's not to help others, okay, okay. Um, um, but Hassan, sticking with the myth, and this is merely for discussion's sake. Okay, okay. Now, the beautiful woman, she did come back and ask for the comb. So the comb is hers. The comb is, but like you say, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. What they say, possession is what, 90% of the law or whatever. So
I'm
yeah.
going to negotiate with her. She's
Okay.
opened up the door for a negotiation.
Okay.
Because this is really the negotiation that needs to happen.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Jeff is now second guessing whether or not I should be the producer on this show.
Okay. Nah, yeah. We want to have him remain the producer, Jeff. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me back up a little bit. I'm gonna back up way up. I'm gonna back way up to the beginning. We're gonna come back to this. Okay. Um, Wow, in the myth, they would go out when the sun was the hottest. Okay, I think when the sun was peaking, that's when they would go out. You talk about proper timing. It's proper timing for everything. Okay, because if they had went out at a later time, the comb might not have been there. Okay, so wow, it's just all about timing. And then also every day they would go out farther than they had ever been before. All right, so wow, life is about, well, to me, it's about kind of going outside our boundaries. Okay, going outside our boundaries. It's about exposure, uh, being comfortable with the unknown. Um, then a comb. They found a comb. Okay, I looked up the symbolism of comb yesterday. And the teeth, they say the teeth of a comb are like the rays of the sun, heavenly light penetrating a person's being through the crown of the head. So combing one's hair is like a spiritual act, okay? And so like a lot of different cultures, a comb, it's a spiritual tool. It's a spiritual tool, all right? A comb unknots, a comb disentangles, a comb smooths out, all right? I want you to write down the first thing that comes to your mind. What needs to be unknotted, detangled, or smoothed out in your life? What needs to be combed out in your life? And here again, and you don't, since this is being recorded, we don't have to say, but like Eric said, you can lie to us, but you can't lie to yourself. I'm going fast through this myth. One of the other questions I skipped was like basically he found a gift. He found a gift on that rock. Okay. So he's been quote unquote given a gift. What gift have you been given? What gift have you been given? Let's start with the gift first. And then what needs. So Jeff, what gift have you been given? What's coming to you?
Well, I think the gift of love, and the gift of love coming from both my husband and from people who love and worship me, and uh, the gift of comfort and security, I would say nominal comfort, nominal security given, and I think the gift of curiosity and I definitely get that from my parents. And so if I'm only getting one gift, or I'm telling you about one gift, it would be the gift of the gift of reaching for something better, for not just, I guess for everybody. I mean, I think for as many people as possible, the desire to disrupt those things that are adverse to the health of people.
Yeah. Thanks, brother. Thanks, Jeff. Earlier, and I said it jokingly when I said you guys are the wrong crowd. For the field we're in, we're giving people. Okay, I remember I was at this one institution, an educational institution, not a psychiatric institution. I was at an institution doing a workshop.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Doing a workshop.
Well, of course you were.
Okay, doing a workshop, and I said, I told him, I said, either Jung or Campbell said, in order to make a world a better place, you do what you do best. And one of the students asked me, do the best for whom? And wow, I never thought about it, because I'm thinking you do you do better for people who have less than you. And I never thought about it because shit, it could be you doing best for the people who already have everything. I never thought about it. Okay, but hey, they did. Okay, okay, okay. And that's why I was saying y'all the wrong crowd, quote unquote wrong. Y'all the right crowd. But yeah, some people don't think about giving things for others. Okay, thanks, Jeff. Dunia, what gifts? Hey, Jeff, man, I hope you wrote that down, brother, that the gift that you've been given. Write it down, man. Dunya, what gift have you been given?
I found it challenging to come up with something succinct, but I think I'm grounded. uh, I'm gonna say family, but I feel like, again, invoking my ancestors, because who I am, yeah, where does that come from, right? The um having a hard time verbalizing this, but it's somewhat similar to what Jeff said about his curiosity. Is there's something within my makeup, there is something that has been passed down to me, and I recognize it as almost something outside of me, but within me at the same time. And that I cannot name is rooted in my family. It's something coursing through um, my person. And wow, what a gift. And I don't know that I know that I can rightly value something that is invaluable, something that I can't put, you know, um, um, yes, a dollar sign to.
Hey, Dunya, thanks. Um, earlier, you said something. You said somebody you never found anything or whatever. Okay, and wow, yeah, okay. uh, I guess finding something and being given a gift that kind somewhat the same thing. Yeah, yeah, Dunya, you've been given a lot of gifts, Dunya. You lay me out, okay? You lay me out. Eric, what's the gift you've been given? Thanks, Dunya and Jeff.
Um, the first thing came to mind were my attachments. By attachments, I guess I meant my relationships. Um, those are uh, ones that have come and gone as they transition. The ability to build new relationships, um, the relationships with people who have already passed away. That's my gift because it's like that's what undergirds me and helps me to stay grounded and actually where I feel the greatest sense of wealth. Um, and even in relationships that have not worked out well, I've gotten gifts from learning from those experiences. Um, yeah, so relationships are my gifts and the ability to continue to cultivate, prune, then cultivate, build. That's what I consider my wealth and my gifts.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. Hassan, what's your gift, brother?
So before we hit record, Kwame, Eric, and I and Jeff were talking, and I said something that I've said throughout my entire life. I only do really three things well. I think good, I write good, and I talk good. Me talk good. Me talk pretty. And so from those three things, um, those are the sprouts. They're not fully mature trees yet, but those are the sprouts that have come from a seed of the intellect that was bred into me that I was born with as a gift, but that was bred and developed in my family over the course of, 20 some odd years of development inside of that family. So the greatest gift that I was given was my intellect. Now, with that being said, it is also the greatest curse. It's both a gift, to paraphrase from Jay-Z, it's a gift and a curse. It's both sides of the sword. So it has been something that has united me to people and has opened doors for me and has allowed me to, Kwame, to your myth, to find combs on the beach or to have them gifted and bequeathed to me and either negotiate over them or take them and go off and sell them to do other things with them. But it has also been the curse that has stopped up relationships and has put people off and has made people think that I am unapproachable or somehow intimidating. And, my mother would probably say, you got to take the bitter with the sweet, right? Everything is not 100% one way or 100% the other. It's always going to be 50-50 or 70-30 or 80-20 or 60-40, depending on the day. And so integrating that, the shadow of that, the Jungian shadow side of that into my overall self has been a lifelong and continues to be a lifelong project.
Hey, thanks for that, man. You're talking about got to take both. They say you got to take the bitter with the sweet, the spinach with the meat. Okay. Okay. And then wow, you're talking about the blessings being being the curse, and wow, that's often how it's often how it happens. I remember watching this movie. It said you find out what it is you love and you let it kill you. Okay. They say it's only two tragedies in life. One is to not get your heart's desire, and the other is to get it. All right. They also said it's do it or don't do it. You will regret both. Okay. 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 And hey, that's life. I think Schopenhauer said life is something that just should not have been. But as Campbell said, we still got to say yes to it. We still got to say yes to it. So, I asked you the question about the comb. It unknots, it disentangles, it smooths out. And then I asked you what in your life needs to be unknotted, detangled, or smoothed out. Everybody write something down. Okay. You willing to share, or you want to just, long as like I say in the group setting, long as you write it down, and that way it's acknowledged by your soul. If we were in a group setting in person, we would share it. Okay. No, assuming we have set up the circle enough that everybody feel safe about it. Another thing, about alchemy and sharing in that circle, you come to find out that rain does not fall on one roof alone. All right. And here again, you come to find out, as our youth and adults in the circle by age, oldest to youngest, you come to find out that, somebody who you really admire, they struggling too, but you'll see when they share, you'll see, wow, I didn't know they were dealing with all that. But then you come to see, wow, they still making it. Okay. Despite dealing with all that. And so it shows you that, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. All right. Jeff, you want to say what needs to be unknotted, detangled, smoothed out?
But I guess what I am working on is how to better understand where my sense of impatience for progress, not the understanding of the impatience, but why is it so deeply frustrating? Frustrating is not really the word, almost pathologically frustrating to me, and how my impatience can sabotage my work. And actually, it can sabotage also, interestingly enough, as I just thought of it, it can sabotage um, working relationships that are not aligned with my um, goals or vision. And it's a thing that I've come to really recognize is incredibly self-defeating. So I'm trying to get to the root of it.
Thank you very much, brother. Thanks, Jeff. Dunya, you want to share?
I mean, everything that Jeff just said really resonated for me. I don't think it's impatience for me. And I see myself as the source of the problem. If I could just continue on with this work of understanding myself better. It's the concept of what you just mentioned, Jeff, that I feel like I keep getting closer to, oh, I see. And that is risky business sometimes because none of this is necessarily, a big reveal. It's more like, oh, crap, okay. Now what am I going to do about it? So I think that it feels like I have a lot of time and I don't. And I think that's where the impatience that you described, Jeff, really plays a huge factor in my own unraveling, I think. But yeah, that's what I'll say to that.
Thanks, Dunya. Thank you. Eric, what you need to smooth out, brother?
I wrote down toxic attachments, um, and 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 in terms of not like so much relationship attachments, but mental attachments and beliefs, self beliefs. Because even just before I got on this call, I was on another call, um, and the person on this call was telling me about a position, and she was telling me basically, you're overqualified for this position. Most people work in this position, you're more senior level, but I don't have that senior level position open here. And I almost found myself being attached to a belief of, I need to do whatever I can do to get into that position, which they are clearly telling me, you are overqualified for this. And that's an attachment that I recognize, and I'm still beating myself up like, Eric, why did you do that? Why didn't you lower yourself? And I caught myself and just was like, you know what? The person was telling me, let's see if we can find something else, if something else comes open, or because we want you here, but your skill set and what you have to offer, we don't have that yet. But we want to keep this conversation going. But it was that attachment, just like when I used to have hair and I had to pick my hair out. It's like having to keep picking the hair out so that it doesn't knot up again. And it was like I saw myself like that attachment to that belief system of just lower yourself to get in, to do what you got to do to move the ball forward, even though it's not aligned with what you know you need to be doing right now. So yeah, that's what came up for me.
Thanks, brother. Hassan, you want to go? I know we close on time here.
Yes, and I want to thank you, Kwame, for leading us through this. And after my answer, I do have to drop off here. And Jeff will close out for us for today. I think the thing that needs to be untangled, unknotted, or maybe detangled in my life, not maybe, but detangled in my life, definitely is, and this is something I've been working on starting this year. I don't make New Year's resolutions. I just make commitments and then go out and do the best I can to sort of hit that commitment. But for me, it's pride, right? Pride is the thing. Pride damages my personal relationships. It damages interpersonal relationships. It damages work relationships. Pride is the thing that, with an intellect like mine, is an easy deception to fall into. And it's the pride that seeks to control others. It seeks to manipulate and seeks to overwhelm and overpower and seeks to push. Jeff and Dunia both talked about impatience. I too, when am impatient, but that impatience comes from a sense of, and a very strong sense of pride. And that has to be detangled. That has to be undone. And don't get me wrong, I've been humbled many times in my life, and I will be humbled again. But even saying that, right, is an act of pride, right? So it always sneaks up. It's as C.S. Lewis says, it's the great sin, right? It's the thing that always pops up even when you're not looking for it. And so that's the thing that needs to be detangled and unknotted in my life.
Hey, thanks, brother. Thank you all. Thank you all for your honesty and being a part.
I this has been so we scripted this and it's is way more than I planned for, and and I think all of you sort of have collaborated in making this a really meaningful episode in this, and I thank you, Kwame, and thank you, Dunia, and thank you, Eric, so much for being so forthright about so much of what we talked about today. And I'm looking forward to our next episode. So thank you.